the Olympus 75-300 version 2. Out here in the swamp, giving it a test for a wildlife camera. I bought it. Don't know if I'm going to keep it. Stick around. Let's find out how it does. To have a 600mm full frame equivalent in a lens the size of the Olympus is pretty damn amazing. When you take a look at it compared to my Sigma 150-500, you really see the advantages of the Micro Four Thirds format. Although their sizes are vastly different, their specs really aren't. The Sigma is a 500mm on the long end full frame equivalent and a 6.3 aperture, where the Olympus is a 600mm full frame equivalent with a 6.7 aperture. So very close to the same specs, but look at the size difference. And I have to tell you, I don't miss the one on the left one damn bit. Now, I never really understood unboxing, so we're not going to do one here, but I should note that the Olympus does not come with a lens hood. I will provide a link to the very cheap lens hood I bought on Amazon that I have been happy with. Obviously, I love the size and portability of this lens, but what about the quality of the results? If you Google the Olympus 75-300 Mark II, you're not going to know what the hell to believe. You're going to have half the people saying that it's a pretty sharp lens and will show you fantastic images. But then you'll have the other half saying that it's almost unusable at 300mm because it's so soft. And I discovered why. When you first get this lens and start using it, it takes time to learn. It's not one that you just pick up and start getting tack sharp shots. The lens is so light that it's hard to shoot at 300mm. You have to keep in mind that you're shooting at 600mm full frame equivalent on a very light lens, and that creates some issues. It's also not the fastest lens, so you have to keep an eye on your shutter speed as well. However, after using this lens for a couple of months, there is no doubt this is a sharp lens. From 75 to 250 millimeters, I would even say it's extremely sharp, producing great results. From 250 to 300, it drops off slightly, but still very pleased with the results. They are sharp.
So what did you think? Did they look sharp? Did they not look sharp? You know, I know sometimes it's hard to tell on YouTube, but you know, we did a couple of things. We talked about the size of the lens, and the only reason I showed you the Sigma was just for perspective, because I do think that's important. We are looking at a 600mm full frame equivalent lens, and it's easy to forget that that's what we're playing with here. We looked at the quality of the results, so I've been very pleased with the results of this lens. One of the things that I actually love about it is the bokeh. I love the bokeh on this lens. Call it creamy, buttery, whatever you want to call it. I really, really like it. In fact, my other lens that I use for wildlife a lot is the 50-200 SWD. It's a 2.8-3.5, so I'm looking at a 100-400 with 2.8-3.5 speed. Really cool. It's got great reviews as far as sharpness and everything, but the bokeh on it sucks and it drives me crazy. I spend so much time in post trying to clean it up. I get some crazy swirls and all sorts of stuff, and it's just not my favorite lens for that. Subject looks great, but the background looks like shit, I'm not gonna lie. With this lens, man, it is awesome. It's really beautiful bokeh. I don't know if it's just the difference in compression between, you know, 200 and 300 on Micro Four Thirds, or just the quality of the lens. I don't really know, nor do I really care. I'm just happy that it's there. So I mentioned at the beginning that I bought this lens. I was going to use it and see if I wanted to keep it. I gotta tell you, it's a really tough decision. Obviously, I've been pleased with the lens, but for only $200 more, the Panasonic offers weather sealing, image stabilization, and it's a little bit faster. It's a 4 to 5.6, where this is a 4 point whatever to 6.7. But so I still think you can make a case for either of them. I think a lot of people are going to buy that Panasonic and be pleased with it. But I have decided to keep this lens. Maybe I'm just lazy, but my rationale for that is this is smaller than the Panasonic. I mean, not hugely so, but it is smaller. But I fell in love with the results that I got from this lens, and I really don't want to trade it out for another one. As far as the weather sealing, yeah, that hurts a little bit. I do like my wildlife lenses to be weather sealed because I am out in some bad environments sometimes, but you know, I'm justifying that by the fact, one, I have another weather sealed lens, the 50-200, but two, this is a lens that with that sort of aperture, I mean, if it's really raining, really bad conditions, I'm not going to have the light that I'm going to need anyway, so I'm probably not going to be shooting this. So, you know, at least maybe I'm just justifying that to myself. And it's $200 cheaper. So, in closing, I'm keeping the lens. It's small, it's light, it's good. So, let's talk about who this lens is for and who it's not for, and then we'll get on out of here. But, who this lens is not for: if you do not have in-body image stabilization, you do not need this lens. It would be such a pain in the ass to use. There's no image stabilization in the lens. Olympus doesn't tend to do that with their lenses because they have stabilization in their bodies. So if you shoot Olympus, then no problem with this. Absolutely, you'll use every bit of that IBIS. If you shoot Panasonic, a lot of the newer models do have image stabilization. So if you have the GX8 or the G85 or the GH5, any of those will work just fine. But if you have the non-image stabilized, absolutely positively stay away from this lens and get the Panasonic version. Who this lens is for: pretty much anybody would find a use for this lens, even professionals. This is not going to be their top choice for a wildlife lens, of course. They're going to want the 300 f4 or maybe the Panleica 100-400, but they're still going to love this lens. It gives you great results, and you'll be able to take this anywhere. So I really cherish this lens in times where maybe I'm going out to dinner with the family, or if we're going to be out all day. I can just throw this in the bag and you don't even feel it. You're going to the beach, I'm going to the lake, all of those situations, street photography, anytime I don't want to carry a big heavy lens around, which is 90% of the time, this is my go-to. So I see me using this lens more than any of my other telephoto zooms, simply because the portability, and I don't sacrifice much on the way of image quality. So again, I think pros would use it for those situations. Amateurs, buy it. You're gonna love it. I mean, honestly, it's $200 less than the Panasonic. It's lighter. You know, go for it. I don't think you'll have any regrets. But then again, I doubt you'll have regrets if you get the new Panasonic version either. I'm new to vlogging. I'm new to the YouTubes. I've got a lot of things planned. I'm a photographer here in Little Rock, so I've got a lot of things planned with doing gear reviews, doing shoot reviews, all sorts of those types of things. Hit that old subscribe button, hit the like, I would appreciate it, and be looking for my next vlog next week.